Okay, so we've got the headstock here, which you can see. Let me just zoom out slightly. Alright. There's really, the headstock starts from this line here that you can see, which we call the nut. Now this is a sort of resting place for the strings to rest on before going down the length of the body. And then we have the headstock here. Now the headstock contains something called the tuning heads, and if I turn it round here, you can see that on the back here there's a sort of gear system in here. Sometimes you don't even have these depending on your guitar, so that you can very finely tune, and that's the headstock. It's basically where you tune your guitar. That's all you really need to know. As we go down, as I said before, you've got this white strip here. Sometimes they're black, sometimes they're graphite, it doesn't really matter. They serve as a sort of resting point, and it's called the nut. And this is where the sound of the string vibration comes from here down the body. Then, as we go up here, you can see we've got what we call the fretboard. Now, electrics, acoustics, all types have fretboards, it doesn't really matter. Some have very nice inlays. I mean, you can see this one's got quite intricate inlays. Usually though, as you'll see on most electrics, most acoustics actually, you'll just have dots for certain frets. All you need to know is that it's called a fretboard, and we're talking about the wooden part that goes through the length of the guitar all the way down. Okay? Next part. Now you see that there's metal bars going across the fretboard here, here, here. Now you generally will need to learn how to count these, which we'll talk about in later in the Guitar 101 course. For now you just need to know the name of these metal strips, which are called frets. As we go up, you'll reach the body of the guitar. Now some acoustics will have a full body here. It won't be cut away like this. This has what we call a single cutaway, because it's been cut away on one side, just to allow access to the higher frets if you're doing some widdly stuff. This part here is called the sound hole, because this is where the sound is generated. When I play a chord, it's coming from outside it's going inside here from the vibration of the strings, bouncing around inside and coming out into your ears. That's the sound hole. Finally, when you get to the end of the strings, you've got this bit here, this wooden part here, and you can see there's these little pegs. Now this is to do with when you're changing your strings on the guitar. You need to take these pegs out after you've loosened the tension on the string, and then you can just pop it out and the string comes out. Put a new string in, plug the gap and tighten it up, and you're away. This is the bridge. This whole unit here as a whole is called the bridge. Finally, if you look at the bottom of this guitar, the final part you need to remember, this part here, and also on here. Now they might be in different places on your acoustic. Sometimes they're on the top here or on the side here. It's basically a point to put a strap on, so that if you're playing and you want to stand up, you can use these end pins here to put the strap. Because I mentioned it's an electro acoustic guitar as opposed to just an acoustic, it has some onboard electronics. So if I turn it around, you can see here I've got a couple of controls. Now these vary quite widely from electro acoustic to electro acoustic. Don't need to know the ins and outs here, but only as far as to know that you can plug this guitar into an amplifier and therefore be a lot louder than everyone else. A normal acoustic guitar doesn't have one of these, and that's the difference between an acoustic and electroacoustic. The acoustic will not have any electronics inside of it to plug in. If it does, then it's called an electroacoustic. Okay? Next is the electric. Okay, welcome back. We're looking now at an electric guitar. There's a couple of very minute differences. The only differences are the obvious zero sound hole and these things, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, now we're looking at the headstock, which you should remember from the other part that we were looking at. You've got same things as before. You've got what we call the nut here, which is that resting point. Then above that, everything above, we call the headstock. Just like before, although it's arranged exactly the same, different coloured machine heads here, but we've got the tuning machine heads here. Next we have the fretboard. Now, as I mentioned before, the acoustic that I was using had quite an intricate inlays on it. This is the more standard dots. Now if I lift it up, it's getting pretty heavy. We come to a new part which is unique to electric guitars, and it's generally always on the body of the electric guitar. It is a pickup. They're little magnets that pick up the signal from the strings vibrating and send it out of the output. We have here, which wasn't on my acoustic, but you can get on acoustics as well, this thing here, which is a pick guard. So when you are strumming, if you hit that, it's not going to scratch your lovely paintwork on your guitar. It's just a little guard to stop against that. You've got the body, just as I said before, which is usually solid. Now I picked this electric because this confuses people, and they ask me what it's got a hollow body, why isn't it an acoustic? Now as I said before, you need a proper sound hole, and if you look at the size of this body, it is relatively thin. You wouldn't be able to say that the sound of this guitar is mainly generated from the body itself. It's a little bit louder, but it's nowhere near as loud as that acoustic that I was playing. Okay, if we go up a little bit more, we have the bridge. Now in a minute I'm going to show you another type of bridge which has a whammy bar on it and a couple of tremolo systems, but this is the fixed bridge, which means it doesn't move, it stays in the same place, and it's a bridge, simple as that. So you've got some new parts here, you've got the pickups and you've got the bridge. Finally, if we move over to this side of the guitar, you should be able to see that we've got a couple of volume knobs there and tone knobs with a pickup selector. Now this adjusts your sound of the guitar. It doesn't actually do much other than that. It activates certain pickups and sends that signal through. So it might use the top pickup on one of the pickup selections, it might use both, it might use the bottom one here, and they get a slightly different sound. So you have one type of pickup, switch it to another, switch it to another, and you get a general sound. Different electrics will sound different, but that is a pickup selector switch. As you get more experience, you'll be able to use that to get the sound that you want. Just like on the Electro Acoustic, you've got a place to put the jack, the cable, to send the signal. And again, you've got two end pins, one here, and again I've got one on the back here to put strap. So that is an electric guitar. Now the final thing I'm going to show you is another type of bridge system, which is common in a lot of rock playing and that general style. So let me just grab that and talk you through that bridge. Just wanted to point out a different style of bridge so that it doesn't confuse you or throw you off. You can see here we have a different style of bridge here. It looks very different, but it still functions the same. The only difference is the other ones I've shown you have been fixed bridge, as in they do not move and do not change the pitch of the strings. However, this one, if I do it sideways here, has a tremolo bar here, or a whammy bar, which can change the angle of the bridge. And what that does, you won't be able to hear it very well, and this is a floating tremolo. Some you can only make it go downwards like that. This one's a floating one, so you can also push it into the body and it raises the strings as well. So just be on the lookout. Yours might have a fixed bridge, a floating bridge, or just a bridge that can be pushed down as opposed to pulling up, like the Eddie Van Halen ones for example, only go downwards. So that is all the parts of electrics, acoustics and electro acoustic guitars. Doesn't matter which one you've got, the Guitar 101 course will be for you anyway. So I hope you enjoy that. We'll move on to the next part.